Straight run up.
Now he angles it somewhat. Barkadash!
Where do I start? It's been up and down.
I remember being a kid.
I can see that happening.
That's something, there's always something to do. Be unlaced.
Unlaced podcast. It's actually not bad.
And we're live. We're back on the Unlaced podcast. Gee, I'm pumped today. We've got a world champion boxer in the building, Sam the King Soliman. How you going, mate?
Hey, buddy, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. We finally got you in the studio. You had some tyre troubles on the way here. But...
Yeah. I normally do a lot of riding everywhere I go, and happen to get a flatty.
No, all good. What's been happening anyway? You've been training lately. You got a fight coming up?
Yeah, I'm fighting Jesse White, not the footballer Jesse.
I was going to say, is that okay? Right. Yeah.
But I can't punch that high. I can kick that high.
Yeah.
I used to kickbox, but no. But that should be a good fight. And he's 7 fights, the 1 loss. And that's going to be a good stouch.
Mate, honestly, it's an honour to have you in the building talking and on this podcast, this platform. Yep. This is the first world champion we've had, I think, in anything on the show. So this is massive. But what you've achieved across combat in general and obviously the sport of boxing been remarkable.
Thanks.
I mean, to say you're world champion, like that's pretty sick. Or a former world champion anyway. It's pretty surreal. But one of the things that's kind of been amazing to me learning about and following your career, especially of late, just doing some research on you, is that you're still fighting at 48, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what's sort of keeping you going?
I mean, so many things, like how much I love the sport and things like that. But of course, loving the sport is probably the main thing. But I mean, being inspired every day by living with a guy who's done this podcast before, John Van Wiss and John Locko. John Van Wiss is my age, and John Locko, who's in his 70 and nearly, and these guys do what they're doing, and they inspire me just as much as I'm inspiring those boxers who are over 30 and still going.
Yeah, you mentioned it, and we're just going to touch on it. You live in like one of the most crazy houses in Melbourne, and you touched on it. You've got like the Mayor of Bryden almost in Johnny Locko there.
That's right.
You got Johnny Van Wisser. For anyone that listened to our early episodes, and if you haven't, you have to listen. He's superhuman. I mean, the guy runs from London, swims the English Channel, and then bikes to Paris.
Consecutively over 3 days.
Yeah, I've never seen anyone that can do it. He's actually on your undercard, isn't he?
Yes, that's right. It's going to be a good night, fight.
Well, is he? Can he go, Johnny, in the ring?
Well, he's had the 1 fight, 1 win, 1 knockout, and the guy that he fought was one shredded big mother puncher. And for John to do what he did that night was special. So this is his 2nd fight, but his first professional fight. That was an amateur show. Now this was a pro. So he's going to be. He's looking forward to it, and we all know how he trains. So.
Yeah, that's crazy. I've always wondered with boxing, like the boxing record, like from fights to wins. Is that like important to you now at your age, or is it more just like actually the fighting, the aspect, like winning yourself within the battle? Do you know what I mean? Because I see a lot of boxers.
Always important. Like, apart from doing it because you love it, you wouldn't love it as much if you weren't winning. But
of course.
But it's not about the win or lose only. It is the part about loving it, doing it, to understand. Once you've been in the ring and you've experienced the thrill of being in the ring, like catching a wave as a surfer catching a wave, or a skydiver, they would understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
because they've been there in that highest of highest adrenaline, race car racing up in the top end of it all, and so that's why I do what I love. And if I was getting hit around and I was getting punched around and inspiring when you're sparring good quality opponents and not getting touched, then, well, I say not getting touched. Of course you're going to get touched.
Yeah, it's boxing.
But it's boxing. But not getting hit around and taking more than 3 punches in a whole spar, then why would you give it away? Yeah,
of course. Well, the reason why I asked, your record is remarkable. Like you've had, 65 fights, 47 wins.
It's been great, yeah.
I mean, Jesus. Yeah. Across like over a 20-year period, I imagine.
Yeah, it's been good.
Because and this is one thing I look at fighters now, like a lot of the sort of superstar fighters, Hollywood show fighters, if you like, that are well known. Do you feel like the younger fighters or the younger demographic now don't fight as much as maybe the generation that you were fighting in, or?
Yeah. So the difference is not really the fighters themselves. The fighters themselves of today would fight every week if they could. They love it as much as any era.
Mm.
Unfortunately, the sport has a lot of politics. It's had it from day one for many years, but the politics got more financially protect your opponent, protect your fighter, and get him the right fights, and then of course the nanny state style state / country that we live in, where they protect them like cotton wool, and if there's any little small injury, they will better stop them for 4 weeks and things like that. Those days it wasn't like that, so you could get busier, you get more experience. But I can understand them wanting to protect the fighters, so it's push and pull.
Is it
both.
mainly like the promoters as well? Is it like a business if those
No, you
dots don't
couldn't-
align, or is it
you
still
couldn't- no?
the
It's cross between promoters, between managers, between matchmakers, between the boxing board themselves and things like that. And again, they're only trying to do the right thing and protect the fighters in every which way they can. Sometimes more than sometimes too much, but what is too much? It's like a fighter to ask a fighter that, he'll be saying straight away, it's too much, too overprotective. You say to someone in general public that doesn't really understand it, you're like, that's so they should be doing that, protecting the fighters. So if it's just finding that fine line between the two, and that is the hardest part.
Yeah, definitely. I've actually said this before on this show, but I for some reason I think boxing is just the hardest sport in the world, and I say that not just from the actual getting in the ring and getting hit in the face and stuff, but like the purely based off the fitness, the diet, the dedication, like the whole sort of round thing on the body and the mind. In comparison to other sports, there's little things maybe you can creep in and cheat and still be elite. Whereas boxing, I feel like you can't get away with it as much. Do you have that sort of fitness, diet, dedication like all year round, or do you kind of pick and choose when you've got the fights and sort of flick a switch?
It is all year round to an extent. So you get your 8 to 10 weeks training camp. That's if you fight a 12-round title fight. If you fight a 6-round title fight, probably 4 to 6 week training camp.
Yeah.
And the training camp would be as strict as you get your 1, maybe 2. You can't call it cheat days.
Yeah.
That's a sort of a stereotype way of saying, sort of like a let your hair down days, where you're not cheat days for those who have Macca's and KFC and Rooster now. I'm saying you let your hair down and you have a bit of skin in your chicken and your meal.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So you're still eating healthy, but like you just won't.
Exactly.
It won't be like
going all out.
ridiculous. That's crazy.
And it's cold turkey. Like you start your training camp. It's 3 days on, 1 day off. 3 days on, 1 day off on an 8-day week. If you were doing it how I'm doing it, and on that day off, like I said, I wouldn't be drinking Coke and Fanta, but I wouldn't be having fast food at the fish and chip shop, but I would be just eating things that are not so raw and so organic and so perfect. And then that's just one of the things, the fuel you're putting in, the early nights, locked in, bang, 8, 10 o'clock, have to be out like a light by then, 9:30 in bed, by 10 o'clock sleep, have to read prior to get tired, tie your eyes out and then fall asleep. And before that, do what you need to do, setting up all your meals beforehand so that the next morning you wake up, it's all set and ready to go after you finish training, or you got your food. So all that is in the 6 to 8 week training camp, or if you're 12-round championship fight, 10-week training camp, and then after that, you can relax and have a couple of weeks off.
What would be a traditional like diet for you in fight camp? Like, would you have a strict specific diet? You might not touch carbs or sugar, anything like that, or is it just?
I'm what they call a logic diet.
Logic diet.
Logic diet. I believe logic diet should be for everyone in the world.
Oh, I love this.
Children, adults, senior citizens. It doesn't matter who. Logic diet is the most important diet, because you go on any diet, you're going to be on it, then off it. And then back to square one over a couple of weeks, and you're on it for 10 weeks, and you're off it for 2 weeks, and you look exactly the same because of the 2 weeks that caught up with you for the 10 weeks you've done so well.
Correct.
So what's the point being on a diet?
Yeah.
Just don't get on one. Just instead of the
That's a
diet,
great logic.
do a lifestyle and do a logic diet, which is knowing, there's a fish and chip shop across the road and there's straight right behind you a sandwich bar, and you just go get the logical sandwich because,
Right.
the fish and chip shop or the
Right.
McDonald's, that's not going to do you any good. Am I going to drink water? Am I going to drink juice? Or am I going to have Coke or Fanta or lemonade? All common sense. Do I have my coffee with full cream all the time, or do I go skinny milk from now on? Skim milk. So it needs to be adjusted. That's all. And once you adjust it and you get used to it, do I have 3 sugars? You know what? I love 3 sugars, but I'm going to go for 2. From 2, I'm going to go to 1. From 1, I'm going to go to half. From half, I can probably stay on the half and I'll be okay. So that's all logic stuff. It's not stuff that's no scientific.
So it's not overly adventurous. It's just basic like, principles.
Yes, once it's overly adventurous, it doesn't get done.
Yeah. Okay.
Or it gets done for a little bit and then you.
It's true because anyone who does a diet, to me, it's temporary. It's not a lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I
Which is
mean?
no
So
good.
that's it's a good point to break that up.
Yeah.
Anyone that knows of you, and there's kind of a myth, and I wanted to get your sort of, the reality on this.
This is interesting.
Yeah, but
I mean,
it's around the training because I've heard
Oh, yeah.
stories of like the excruciating Sam Soliman training sessions. I've even seen like clips of you doing handstands in the ring with your head on the corner of the ring. Like, are you able to give us some insight into the types of training, like the levels you go to that, the basic person, there's no chance they can do unless they're really committing themselves?
Yeah, so like I get days where I just go all out and do some crazy stuff. In my mind, it's something that my fighter won't be doing, whatever it may be. My opponent, should I say, not my fighter. My fighter will be doing it. Don't worry about that.
I was going to say.
He will definitely be doing it. She will definitely be doing it.
Yeah.
My fighters will agree with that because they're you're listening out there. I've got your back, guys. I'm not pulling you back. So again, it's something that like. I'll do a ridiculous amount of a certain amount of whatever it's push-ups, sit-ups, chin-ups, certain punches on the bags, certain weight carrying, weights on my back while training. I'll do something I know that's going to give me 3 or 4 days of delayed onset muscle soreness, where I will need 3 or 4 days of recovery. And on those 3 or 4 days, I won't have them off. I'll just be adjusting it so that I can recover and repair the muscles from the hard work of that crazy day that you were talking about.
Yeah.
And again, that'd be lighter training, shorter sessions, probably 2 instead of 1, but a shorter 30-minute session times 2 in a day.
Yeah.
And just to get
Jesus.
the lactic acid and the torn muscle fibers in your body from the crazy day. And then doing that means come fight time or come competition time in footy or whatever sport you play, you can know that you've got something that your opponent hasn't got, or the guy you're playing against haven't got, or the guy who's tagging you on the footy field or whatever. So in saying that, that's why I do what I do to get my fighters and myself to the point where when it gets to the later rounds and you got to find something.
Yeah.
You can find something.
Hey, folks, we've got a quick break in the podcast to share just a little bit of something with you. Support for today's Unlaced podcast episode is brought for you by Manscaped, who is the best in below waist grooming champions of the world. They offer precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. I like that line. That was very good. Manscaped has just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the 4.0 lawnmower. We're one of the first to try it, Pete, aren't we?
We are, and I can't speak highly enough about the 4.0.
Do you say 0, not O? Interesting.
Oh, 0,
What do you call your balls?
shaven.
I love that. So you get on the Manscaped website. Unlaced is the discount code. Get on manscaped.com. In your checkout basket, put that in, and you get free shipping worldwide. The deodorant actually smells really nice as well, and it gives it like a smooth texture. So they go hand in hand, the lawnmower and obviously the deodorant. If you're like me and you got a bit of Manscaped stuff, get this bag. It's great, a little toiletry bag to put all your stuff in. I've even got some jocks, as you can see. These are a bit too big for me, so they're obviously Pete's. Are you fitting those? I hope so. But yeah, so everyone, get around Manscaped, a great brand. If you're using the same shaver to shave your face and your balls, reevaluate, man. That's not cool. So come on, get on the manscaped.com. Use the Unlaced code for 20% off, free shipping worldwide. Get your products, and your balls will thank you. Let's get back into the episode because you've been there in camp.
You've been there in camp. You've done something that
Yeah.
in only time you'll feel it is in the fight, because the pressure, the adrenaline, the nerves, the pace, the fast twitch muscle fibers going 100 miles an hour through the whole competition in whatever sport you're doing, all that is different to training if you don't do it in training. But if you've done it in training, and you can't do it in training every day because you'll be washed up firstly, or you'll be overtraining. So
Yeah.
you shock the body by doing it and doing the recovery. It gets technical, and I won't get too
No,
technical
but,
with you,
my assumption is that besides the physical pain, is it right that like sort of the fight itself should almost be the easy part from a fitness standpoint? Like the camp should be the hard part, or is it actually where
you can imagine it in that way? But I mean,
it's
it'll
not
never,
the case.
It can never be that way. But
Yeah.
if you can mentally convince your mind that your training's going to be that hard that it'll be harder than the fight, then why not do that? And then come fight time, pretty sure that the fight will be harder, but fight will be harder with you going as hard as you did, creating in your mind that training is harder than the fight.
Yeah.
Then come fight time, your mind does some incredible things, and you will perform to
That's crazy.
to what your body would never have done if you didn't think like that.
Yeah.
So that's why my fighters, for example, let's give an example. My fighters, they'll be spent, and when they're spent, there's nothing worse than your coach saying to you, okay, head up, walk around, look fresh. You just want to put your head down,
Yeah.
lean on the ropes, give me a second, give me some water. I'll be like, body language, head up, look fresh. I'll be giving them the water they want. I'll be, massaging their neck, slapping them
What's the
around.
reason for that for you? Like when you instruct them?
So then if they have that, come fight time, they won't look spent. They'll look fresh because
okay.
they've practiced it already in a fight.
Yeah.
That's the part that doesn't get practiced by 90% of
Yeah.
athletes who train for a.
Because that's what your opponent will look for too. If
Yeah,
he's
they'll look
hands on
for-
knees or anything.
And your opponent will get energy from the fact that he's seen you
Yeah.
looking flat, and then
Yeah.
he'll look flat if he sees you looking at a jerrycan buzzing when you've just done a 300 punch round.
Yeah.
And then you say, well, what do I have to do to get to this, to wear this guy down?
Yeah.
You've only done that because you've experienced it in training.
Fair enough. So, what got you into boxing? Like, when did you start boxing, and then when did that become like this is the path for me
I wasn't
too?
any good at table tennis.
Oh, you're apparently good at indoor cricket, is what I've been told. He's trying to recruit our producer Pete for opening the batting. So,
I loved as a kid. I was a big fan of martial arts. I loved Bruce Lee. That was my idol
Yeah.
as a kid, and as you probably were too.
yeah, man, he's insane.
Every kid,
Yeah.
and and Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, one of my favorites. Watched them and said, I'd love to be able to do that one day. And went to a boxing gym when I was like 9, 10 years old, and Frank Kenny, Chelsea, passed away now. He was 88 when I was training him, and
88.
yeah,
You were
he
10
went
years
all the way
old.
to- He went to the age of 91 before he
Wow.
passed, and in those 3 years, his hand speed at 88 was ridiculous.
Really?
Fragile man, of course, at 88, but hand speed, and and you just watch him and go, well, I want to do that.
Oh,
and,
that's
And
crazy.
he inspired me. He was part of the inspiration of getting me from A to B, and people today are still inspiring me. Guys like I said, Jan Van Wys, John Locko, and that John Locko, the guy who lives at our house, who owns our house, he swam Alcatraz. It's a 7-8K swim, but did it in shark-infested waters.
This is we're talking San Francisco, the prison, where they're in the middle.
There's helicopters
Far
above him, saying him get out of the water. There's
Yeah,
sharks.
that water's not safe.
And he's just treading the water, saying, "Guys, I'm doing what I'm doing. Leave me alone." He doesn't miss a day. He does 90 days straight. He's done 3 months straight in June, July, August, May, June, July, August. That's 4 months. Sorry, straight, because I'm living with him, so I see it. Doesn't miss the bay, swimming in the bay, and things like that's inspirational to me, and that's where it's good to have that kind of thing. And again, John Van Wiss and guys
That's
like that
crazy.
living with, it's great.
Yeah. So
Who you hang out with is how you turn out.
did any of like in your sort of childhood, teenage years, early 20s, did people pick fights with you, like, you know, in the wrong places, like obviously not knowing who you were and stuff?
I
Like,
think every kid experiences that sometime in their.
I just feel like
in their
picking a
life.
fight with you, there'd be a rude awakening after that.
Dad was good. He instilled in me about never throwing the first punch, never just avoiding it at all costs.
Yeah.
If the punch gets thrown, knock the kid out.
Yeah.
I don't tell my son that either. I tell my son, my dad was half right.
Yeah.
I tell my son, just walk away and have the hands up and put your hands up in terms of showing him you're not interested in the fight. That way everyone can see that you weren't interested. So if you got to a school principal or got to a situation on the street one day or something
You really
like that,
tried to avoid it.
You tried to avoid it at all costs, and your hands up will protect you from getting hit in the face and things like that. And so when I went through it as a kid, it was a bit different. Dad'd be like, "You don't throw the first punch. He throws the punch, then you punch." And I went through that and learned how to fight, and learned how to defend myself in that way. And yeah, it was an experience of its own. But
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
learned how to fight there. But then when I was in the ring and got a bit of, it was back then, there was no social media, but like, you know, if I was in a magazine or a newspaper, I'm sure there's kids that would say, "My God, 3-4 years ago, I had a fight with that kid in grade 6. Now we're in form 4.
Yeah.
I can't believe he's doing what he's doing."
Yeah.
I can't believe
That's
I fought that
crazy.
kid.
That's
It's funny.
crazy.
It's funny.
Have you? And we're gonna go into like some of your most decorated fights, but I'm keen to understand. Do you think fighting gives you a sense of confidence, a sense of empowerment, a sense of productivity in like the normal world?
Yeah.
Do you recommend that for like people to get in?
I think anyone in the sport, definitely anyone who's given it a go, female, male, any age, it does that for you. Gives you that confidence. You know, you never get into a fight, you know, and no one picks you. Just because of your there's the aura about you. It's just they can almost feel your confidence and just think, well, you know what, he knows what he's doing. You can be smaller than the other guy, and they still won't pick for that reason. And once you've got that confidence, it's not just good for that. Boxing, martial arts, kickboxing, it's good for your health, lifestyle, your diet, your sleep patterns, your health in general, how you look and the respect you get. That's just a handful of things I said from about 30 other things that it's good for. But in saying that, if you're in a combat sport, learning it, as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, there's no better buzz.
I love that. I couldn't agree more. I feel like that would be some of the benefits of it. Have you ever been fearful of like anyone in the ring in your professional career? Where is that like it's? I assume it's normal, but is there anyone that's been like, "Oh fuck"?
There wouldn't be a fight where I wouldn't be saying to myself, well, anything can go wrong here. You know what I mean?
That's crazy, man. You've trained your ass off for 8 to 12 weeks.
But what's got me over the line, and I've never had an issue, is the fact that if you've done everything you need to do in the ring, in the gym, and you've done it at the pace that you should be doing it, come fight time, you'll be able to overcome whatever it is you're going to be feeling. So what you just said is right. You do get that feeling, but while you get that feeling, it gets overwhelmed by your confidence of what you've done. You've left no stone unturned, as my good friend David Stanley would say. Leave no stone unturned, and you do that, and you no matter what situation, who you're fighting, there's no one that's going to topple you because you've done what you've done. You know, you may be a close one, but you'll get over the line in the end because you've done something super special. You know, and that's what's so great about the sport.
Yeah, there's no better feeling when you know you've done everything you can, and like you'll sleep good at night regardless because you're like, well, what more can I have done?
That's right, and it really helps having a good trainer. Like my trainer was 30 years with me, David Hitchcock, and he was not just a standard trainer. He was what I mean by not standard, like he was an unconventional. It was a style that you have to learn to accept that you're not going to look good at the start to look great at the end. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
it's either do you want to look good, go to your local gym and train really hard and learn from your coach, or do you want to look super great and go to a trainer that is so unorthodox and so unconventional that it'll be tough to look good, but it's so much harder. But when you get there, he makes you look sensational.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because you're it's not your standard everyday type style boxing. Everything's everything's not written in a book. You could never find a book that would teach you what Dave Hitchcock would teach you, and that's what worked, and that's why we stood out in terms of firstly listening to him, so that you can trust in his ways, and his ways worked every time.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's unreal. One of your famous fights, or most famous fights, was the 2014 Felix Sturm fight in Germany for the middleweight world championship, which was unbelievable. Like, obviously, it's a big fight, but given your age and experience at that point, and obviously that being the championship that you could have won or would have won and would have been your first going into that fight, like, was that just like an overwhelming fight, the biggest fight of your career at the time?
yeah. I mean, any fighter who's fighting for a world title, it is going to be there's no way. It
And
can't
you were
not
in
be.
his backyard too, weren't
Exactly.
you? Yeah.
And it's like going to Wimbledon, the grand final in football, the World Cup. It does whatever it's going to be the biggest day for you, because that's what you go your whole life training for and competing for until you get that moment. And Felix Sturm, of course, with his record as well at 32.
Unbelievable, man.
Yeah, 32-2.
Fuck.
He only had the 2 losses in 32 wins and fought the best there is out there. Fought Oscar De La Hoya, fought all the names we all know. And it's funny, I had a poster up of Oscar De La Hoya when I was a kid, and if the poster was still up when I was about to fight Sturm, I would have put the poster down because it would have intimidated me.
Right?
This guy outboxed one of my favourite boxers, so I'm going to put that poster down so I don't think that, well, if he outboxed one of my favourite boxers, what's he going to do to me?
Unbelievable.
But of course, I did never get to that because, like I said, I'd done all the training and all the sweet science of it and had the best trainer in Dave Hitchcock doing it. Great management in Dave Stanley, who made sure I ticked every box. Lived with, like I said, John Locko, John Van Wiss, lived with people that live it and know how to get you to the elite of elite. And doing that, we came over the line and beat one of the best boxers to put gloves on in Felix Sturm, and then rematched him to confirm that win and won both times. So
Man, it's
now
amazing.
it's 4 losses instead of 2 on his
Yeah, correct.
32 win. streak.
100%. And this, like, when we talk about that fight and obviously winning the world championship, you were 40 at the time,
Yeah, that's
which
right.
is like
Unheard of.
probably the most, unheard of. Like, for people who are shocked now, Cristiano Ronaldo is 36, scoring goals for you were winning a world championship in boxing at 40.
Yeah, it's good. Fun.
Like, man,
It's a lot of fun.
like for you, why were you able to compete for so long at that level? Is it the training? Is it the dedication? Did you just take care of yourself the whole time through your career?
All that stuff's included, but the most important, of course, is lifestyle.
Lifestyle, really.
Lifestyle. So getting caught up in whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's a gambling issue, whether it's a whatever addiction that could mess you up. You smoked once or whatever.
Mm.
Of course, after a while, your body will, when you get older, it slows down a little bit. It can't maintain because that whatever addiction you had or whatever thing that may have done a bit of damage to your body when you were younger, but your body was metabolism and your youth and that overcame it for the time. Catches up with you later, and I haven't had any of that. Fortunately, thank you God for that. Thank Mum and Dad for the discipline to be able to be so strict to me in that way, but in a very good way. And I didn't get caught up in any of that, and of course the other side of it is, like I said, the Dave Hitchcock style, the hit and not get hit, the sweet science of it, so that the brain stays intact and doesn't get punched around. And like I said, I wouldn't be doing it now if I was getting get in
That's
touch.
crazy.
So in saying that, at the age of 50, I might put the goals up.
I know. I don't think you will. We'll see.
I've always wanted to make a half century in cricket.
Wow.
I'm going to make a half century in boxing.
Oh, let's do it. Has anyone ever done that? Has anyone won a world championship at that age? Would you?
In America, I think it was George Foreman,
George Foreman. Did it.
Bernard Hopkins.
It's not a bad bracket to be in, though,
Probably-
is it?
I don't think it.
Some of the greatest
Hopkins.
fighters of all time.
Yeah, Hopkins, Foreman. It's bad. I can.
Probably some of the listeners who know of the Sam the King Soliman will be probably from one of the biggest domestic fights we've ever seen, which was so well documented back in the early 2000s against Anthony Mundine. What was that sort of time and period like for you? Obviously, it was such a big rivalry, with two massive fights in general against
We've had lots of fights in my time, but the experience of fighting in front of 8,000, 10,000 people at a stadium in Australia, I had that plenty overseas,
Yeah.
but didn't have it at home. Having it at home was the best. There was
Yeah.
nothing like it. It was a great experience, and whether we got the decision or not, the fight was great. And credit to Anthony Mundine. We had a few wars together. We had some fun after it, and he got the nod, and he did what he did, and I moved on to win a world title. He moved on to win one of his own, and couldn't have been a better.
It was like the biggest. It was
couldn't
the
have been a
biggest
better
fight in
era.
Australia by
Yeah.
far at the time. Like you know
Yeah.
what I mean? It was huge.
Well, it couldn't have been a better era.
Yeah,
I
it was.
loved
It was, and this is one of the things. And you mentioned it because I wanted to be transparent. Like it was a controversial decision, but one of the fights.
It
But
didn't matter. It didn't matter. I accepted the fact that I'd done what I loved, and if I had have given it away because of that life-changing time when everything was on the line and I didn't get the nod, I could have let it beat me twice. One on
Yeah.
the scorecards, and the other giving it away. Or 'cause
Yeah.
everyone say, "How can you still do it after what just happened?"
yeah,
Happened to you, how they, and I said, then he wins twice. So
yeah.
I just kept doing what I'm doing. And by doing that, and this is to all listeners who are athletes or in any sport, that if you let them beat you twice, and I say twice as in the first time is on the scorecard and the second time is stopping you doing what you love because it didn't go your way, then they have won twice. Or you take whatever you can from it, you just come back and come back stronger, and when you do win it, it's even more rewarding in the end, and that was what's made it special.
Man, they were incredible fights. Everyone, you should see Sam Soliman fight in those fights, particularly the one that went to a decision was probably one of the best fights this country's ever seen. I'm keen to understand. Yeah, no, it was true. He's giving me the thumbs up. Thanks, Sammy boy.
Thanks, mate.
That's a plug. That's a plug.
Yeah. But you know what? Now I've got a career in teaching boxing as well. I'm doing what I love in teaching as well. I love teaching boxing. I'm almost to the point of obsession. It's just so I can't get enough of it. Like every time I see a kid learn something and get better at it, and then come back to me and say, "Sammy, I've got it now," or inspiring, do it better than what he did the day before from what I showed him because he practiced it at home, and I know when they practice at home and when they haven't. And there's no better reward, and so there's no better. It's so good. So I've got quite a few fighters coming out of my gym now. A kid named Aiden Nita, and I've got a few other fighters, Antonio and Ray, Jack Raymond, and I've got so many boxers coming through the rankings now that are going to really put on a show for Australian boxing and the world, and with another great lady, female boxer in Kayla and her husband Grant Jones. They're two fighters that one's going to be Olympian and one's going to be world champion. And you know, every trainer says, "Oh, my boy's going to do this and my girl's going to do that," but till you watch them, it's not. It's inevitable. It's not a maybe. The only way that could happen is if they get hit by a bus. Don't get hit by a bus, guys. But it's there's super special talent that I've got in that gym. That and like I said, remember those names I just said: Antonio,
100%.
Antonio, we call him Monzon. The nickname John Locko names him Monzon because Carlos Monzon, a great big puncher. Aidan Needer and Jack Raymond, of course, Grant and Kayla Jones. And remember those names because they're 2022, 23s Olympians / world champions.
Amazing. We'll have to keep an eye out for them. One of the things I get intrigued by with particularly individual sports, but also, I mean, boxing, is when you fight like away from home. Like you don't really you've got your corner, but like no fans. Like, do you know what I mean? So, and I assume from looking at your fights where you fought overseas, that some of them have been fucking hostile environments.
Yeah.
Like, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that pressure? Can you block that out or?
Yeah, like over the years you get used. I mean, you know, like it always comes back to why am I doing it? And then while I'm walking into the ring, I keep reminding myself of that. Keep reminding myself to enjoy what I'm doing. I'm going to regret it if I don't. And while I'm doing all that, and the crowd are hostile, and they're all chanting for the other guy in whatever country I'm at. Another half of me, just lurking behind my shoulder is in my mind is that I'm going to turn this crowd around come round 7, 8, 9.
Wow.
And mate, nearly every time we have, because the crowd love to see an underdog or an away fighter come go through the toughest sport and get through the toughest of fights and change the outcome of what would have been expected to have been a real beatdown of this away fighter.
Must be so fulfilling.
That's fulfilling, and it hasn't every single time gone our way, but 80% of the times it has. So it's good odds.
It's a good
odds. And I'm so excited about having my fighters, Grant,
get
Kayla,
to experience that.
Get to experience it. Aiden,
Yeah.
Antonio, Jack Raymond. I've got so many good boxers that are going to come through that I'm just so can't wait to see them do what they're going to do.
Speaking of some other boxers and one that's just done what we've just said, winning in a hostile environment, I can't not talk about George Kambosos.
How good.
Yeah. Did you watch the fight against?
Twice.
Twice?
I don't watch footy. I love my Aussie rules. I hardly watch the boxing, believe it or not. I'm crazy about my footy, Aussie rules. But there's an exception to that when it came to watching that fight. That fight, Tim Tszyu, fighters like that, the performances they put on, you can't watch it once.
Yeah, really.
More than once.
Yeah, you have
so
to watch
good.
him twice.
So good.
Oh, what makes him so special, Kambosos?
First time I watch it to enjoy it. Second time I watch it to watch how they do what they do, and they do it so well. Without the emotion involved, just to be able to just concentrate,
like the technical
and enjoy the technical aspect and all that. But Kambosos you haven't seen the last of that great performance. That'll be replayed again. I'm 100% sure of it. I think him and Tim Tszyu, and I mean I said that about Tim last year.
They're that good?
When they were saying, oh, no way he's going to be like his dad. He's going to be good. But he's like, I said, mate, well, have a look and see for yourself. His dad will tell you what I'm about to say, and he's going to be up there, if not better, in some.
Wow, really.
And I'm glad he didn't put egg on my face. He said
Yeah.
exactly how he did what he went out to do, and Kambosos was just replayed what a Tim Tszyu would do if he was in that same situation. It's not a maybe. The mongrel in Tim hasn't been seen yet, but it will. And his last fight was a quick glimpse of what he can do.
Yeah, there's Kambosos. Like maybe some people in Australia didn't realize that Lopez beat Lomachenko for the title, and Lopez was undefeated. Then Kambosos fought him in like Lopez's backyard. Is that like because you fought in some of the biggest fights this country's seen, or Australian fights in like our history? Do you reckon that's one of the biggest wins we've ever seen?
Equal with any big fights. I compare it with Costa Tszyu's fight against Zab Judah.
Really?
It was like a replay of that in some ways because I mean Tszyu fought Zab Judah, and Zab was a massive favourite against an Olympian in Costa Tszyu who's won everything, but it was in his hometown, in Zab Judah's hometown, and Zab was undefeated, unbelievably unconventional, hard to hit gun, beating everyone. And Costa Zoo was in trouble in the first round. Couldn't quite catch him, but Zoo stayed composed, and it was exactly the same thing. It was exact same scenarios that happened in that fight they did with it. And I'm sure if Costa was watching the fight, he would have been saying, "Oh, I've been there. And I know exactly what he's feeling, and I know exactly what he's going to do." And everything that happened in that fight happened in the
Oh, really?
fight. They're my two of my favourite Australian going overseas.
Oh,
fights.
yeah. Incredible. I mean, even for me, I think it's like people that weren't even boxing fans now Kambosos fans. That's how big it was.
The other special thing was my favourite fighter got beat in Luminchenko. And the only fight he's going to be beat by is Lopez.
Yeah,
so
which is why that's so big.
It wasn't just I was going for the Aussie, and it wasn't just how he did it, but he beat the guy that beat my favourite boxer in
Lomachenko.
So it was a very, very good day.
One for the history books. Another thing I think that's important to mention when talking about you is some of the work you do in the community. And you've done it for a long time, I think, with the Salvation Army. But are you able to share to our listeners, I guess, some of the work you've done there historically and continue to potentially do?
Quick shout out to all the
Yeah.
guys at Salvation Army, and I hope you're doing okay with the pandemic that's been happening with the coronavirus. And I've really enjoyed working with you guys, and still enjoy working with you guys, and look forward to seeing you again after this fight and being able to celebrate with you guys soon.
That's it. And now you're a big footy fan as well. You touched on it before. Who do you go for?
So I'm a Tiger since I was a kid.
Oh, fuck, you've had a good few years then, haven't you?
I've had a very good few years. And my second team's been Collingwood as I've grown up and worked with. So as I've worked with so many, they gave me a huge opportunity at Collingwood, the Lexus Centre, and working with some of my favourites who I love to watch play in Licker and Rocker and Taryn and some of my favourites, and Nick Johnson.
Unreal.
It's been good.
So how I reckon. I wonder if Richmond will be back there this year. I've got a feeling that they could make the jump. They're just so good. They're so good to watch. It's going to be exciting to see what happens.
It is going to be exciting. It's exciting. It's exciting for me that my team have done that for so many years. Also, in this last few years, they've killed it.
Yeah.
and of course, you got to look out Collingwood, the Roo boy. We call him Roo. We've got this this guy who's we support. He's come from Senegal, 6'9". Look out for him. He's going to be one of our best. Roo, his name Roo, and watch out for him. He's going to do something special for look out.
All right, we will do. All right, we've got one more quick. We've got a bit of a fan segment here, Sammy, before we finish up. It's called the Lace 'em Up Quick Fire 5. Pretty much, I shoot 5 quick questions at you, instinctive answers. All right, so this has come from the listeners, and we'll see how we go. All right, so what would you be if you weren't a boxer?
Footballer.
Footy player for the Tigers. There we go. This is interesting, worst thing about being a boxer?
The diet. Not being allowed to eat what you feel like eating.
Okay. Favorite arena of all time that you fought in?
Probably in America at the Mohegan Sun Casino.
Wow, that's crazy. Favorite holiday destination whenever you get to have one?
Probably in the US.
US as well?
US, yeah.
And then this is an interesting one because you just mentioned you don't really have too many of them, but favorite cheap meal?
Well, spaghetti marinara is not a cheap meal, but it is when you have it with cream sauce.
That's the dedication.
Throw the garlic to put the taste into it, but yeah, that's my favorite meal. My favorite cheap, with cream sauce. My favorite cheap meal, probably my wife's pasticcio.
Oh, we love that. Oh, Sam the King Soliman, thank you so much for coming on. I wish you the best. Fight 66 coming up this week. So
thanks, mate. Well, I just wanted a quick shout out to my son Samir and Cleopatra, my daughter, and Maria, my wife, and say hello and love you guys.
Beautiful. Thanks, mate. Thanks for coming on. Awesome.
Thanks, mate.